It's Monday on the Lunduke Show, and that could mean only one thing. It's time for me to get to rant about something that's been pissing me off for a while. I love Mondays. Mondays are quickly becoming my favorite day of the week for this very reason. Start out the week, yell about something, get it out of your system, and then the whole rest of the week smells like friggin' roses. It is absolutely delightful. This particular session of venting and ranting is brought to you in part by System 76, specifically the Meerkat. This adorable little 4-inch by 4-inch square little desktop PC Wunderhaus. That's not a real word. It's like a mixture of German words and something else. I don't know. It's a really cool PC. The reason I bring this up is because I've been trying to figure out what the best machine is for me to use in my house for my TV set-top boxes. And I've been using Raspberry Pis for a while, and Raspberry Pis are awesome. Super awesome. Like, I've got like these little Raspberry Pis here, right? They're great. And they're so cheap, and they do quite a lot. But there's a couple of things I want to be able to do on those set-top boxes that I can't quite pull off with the Raspberry Pi, and I want to be able to do it all with Linux. I want to be able to stream a little bit higher quality streaming media. If if you have a Raspberry Pi, it is possible to get Netflix and Hulu and everything else working properly on it. It is, but the performance, there are some tweaks you can do to get the performance kind of up to par, but it's really kind of iffy, and some web browsing can be a problem, and some gaming can be a real problem. And what if you want to put Steam on there for your TV experience? So I'm looking at one of these Meerkats. And in fact, if you go over to system76.com, they actually list this as one of the possible usage for it: Steam on your TV and using it as a media center. And that's kind of what I'm thinking for this. They also recommend maybe using it like as a mini server and whatnot. Great purpose for it. But for me, what I'm thinking is this might be just about right for my living room machine, right? Yeah, like I put this on there, hook up a wireless keyboard mouse, one of those little wireless keyboard mouse combos, so I can sit on the couch and do anything I want to from it, and then a couple of wireless, just nice remote controls, little game controllers. You can see some. There's one up there sitting next to a Knit Yoda that would do great for this. So I could play Steam games, watch everything. Anyway, it's just something I was thinking a bit about, and so I wanted to talk to you guys about that here. One of the sponsors of this show, they ship great machines. They run Linux, system76.com. All right, we need to talk about keyboard input lag. It's not the sexiest thing to yell and vent about, and until about a week and a half ago, I didn't realize how much it was driving me absolutely crazy. I really didn't. Computing has gotten so much faster. So much faster. Right now, I'm producing a video production with live compositing all in 1080p and saving it all in real time. And some days, like on Thursdays, I stream it at the exact same time, all from the same machine, all while having presentation applications open and taking up a bunch of screen real estate, file managers and web browsers and everything else rocking and rolling. And this computer doesn't even break a sweat, but there's just this input lag. There's this little input lag on everything that I do. When I type a key, it doesn't instantly appear on the screen. It's close to instantly. And some of you are probably thinking, what the hell are you talking about, Lunduke? You're crazy. You push a key and it appears on the screen. It happens pretty fast. I mean, occasionally something gets bogged down and things go a little slower, but not most of the time. You know what? That's what I thought too. Until I started using this guy. This is a Radio Shack TRS-80 Model 100. This machine is from the mid-1980s. It doesn't have a lot of beef to it. There's not a lot of guts in here. Do I even have the spec list up and running? I don't even think I have the spec list here. But it's got a 2.4 megahertz CPU and 32K of RAM. It's not a mega powerhouse of a machine, but there's one thing it does great. I mean, aside from the fact that it has nice mechanical keys with some good clicks to it, when you push a key on this keyboard, the letter instantly appears on this screen. It's so fast, it's ridiculous. And The first time I did this, a really awesome fan of the show sent this in so I could start playing with it. And I'm working on a project around this. And so I start playing around with it. And I realized as I was typing, I was smiling. And this doesn't do much. It really, really doesn't. It has a basic interpreter that runs really slow because, again, 2.4 megahertz. We're not talking gigahertz here. We're not talking the speed of a 286. We're not even talking the speed of most old XTs. This is crazy slow. I believe it is... I can't remember exactly what CPU it was off the top of my head for some reason. I think it was the 80C85, something like that. It was a 2.4 megahertz, and it's so slow. But yet, when you type, the letters instantly appear on the screen, instantly. And you don't realize how astoundingly slow things were going on our fast hardware. It kind of blew my mind a little bit because somewhere deep down, I know that there's reasons why there might be a little bit of input lag. And I know that depending on whether I'm playing games or whatnot, I want to have a wired connection versus a wireless connection to improve input lag for gaming and other activities. And that all makes sense. And these are, of course, things that many of us think about fairly regularly. But even when you've got a nice keyboard on a wired USB connection into a crazy fast machine like I've got here. My machine that I stream and record the Lunduke show from is psycho fast. I mean, I've got an NVIDIA GTX 1080 video card in here. I've got a metric butt ton of RAM in here. My drive is a beautiful, beautiful M.2 drive. I mean, everything is fast. It's fast. It's a friggin' fast machine. And still, there's that little input lag. When I type a key, maybe it's just in milliseconds, but that lag is there. And now that I've been re-shown what it was like in the 80s, of how quickly those characters came back on the screen, every time I sit down to type on my modern machine, it is driving me up the fargan wall. It is driving me bonkers. And it's a little thing. Does it mean that I can't just simply look away from the screen and touch type and type 100 whatever words per minute just like I can on old machines, new machines, whatever? Yes, yeah, I can still do that. But there's that visual thing. My brain senses that something is disconnected. It's not instantaneous enough. And I know technically when I push a key here, there is some sort of measurable delay before it appears on the screen. But it's so fast that either my brain doesn't notice that gap, or it's so fast in comparison to what I've been used to over the last many years that my brain's just like, oh, finally. It's like there's a part of my subconscious that as I'm typing, and it's not a retro nostalgia thing, but it's really the speed of the responsiveness thing. There's a part of my subconscious that can relax. It's like, for those of you who wear glasses or contacts, you kind of know what I'm talking about here. If you go around with your glasses off, right? And I'm like, oh, I can barely see. And then you put your glasses on. Like you can just be like, oh, that's relaxing. Like, yeah, baby, that feels right. Like the muscles don't have to strain as hard. And there's something to it about that fast response time from that input. And it specifically is noticeable for me with keyboard. I'm sure there's a similar latency with the mouse, but because of the way I use a mouse and what probably most people use a mouse, you don't notice it quite so much. But man, do I notice on the keyboard? And there's reasons for that. I know that there's good reasons for that. We have far more complex systems nowadays, far more complex, running many, many, many more processes all at the same time than we used to. And those are competing for resources. And those are basically time sharing on our systems. Whereas this machine, that's single tasking. That's right up there. It does one thing. It has a text editor up, and the text editor does one thing and one thing at a time, and it just sits there waiting for your input. And that's all it does. So it doesn't have to compete with anything. So I get that. Plus, there's the compositing. Most desktops nowadays do a little bit more complex compositing. They layer more graphics on top of each other. They do some anti-aliasing work and subpixel hinting work, and they sometimes will offload a bunch of that that processing off into the GPU. And even if the GPU is an incredibly powerful, incredibly fast GPU with a very, very big speedy pipeline between the graphics card and the bus leading to the CPU and the RAM, there's still a delay, right? There always is going to be a little added delay, even if it's just measured in milliseconds. And that really is the point. Each point of data transition adds lag. And what I mean by that is literally every point that your data has to pass through adds a little bit of lag. So if I have a keyboard here, I've got a USB attached keyboard right in front of me right now. Whether it was wireless or USB, it's still got to connect from there to your main machine. There's one point. If I'm connecting to the USB bus, it's then going into the USB bus. And then it's got to handle it from there, and it's got to pass it in and figure out, and the CPU's got to interpret every input coming in. Is it going to have to go through a driver? Yes. So there's another little bit of lag out on top of that. Is the actual processing that's got to be done in order for, say, LibreOffice or your favorite text editor, for that key to appear on the screen? Yes. Does it have to go through a compositing engine? Yes. Will it have to be passed off to the GPU and then back to the CPU? Blah, 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 blah. Yes. Every little bit adds a bit. So I get it. And do I want to get rid of all of the added beauty that we can have nowadays because we have such complex systems? I don't know that I do. I mean, I can't exactly load up this Tandy TRS-80 Model 102 and record this show on it. I mean, even if this had the RAM and the storage space, which 32K is not going to quite cut a 1080p video. It's just not going to handle it. I somehow doubt the 2.4 megahertz processor and bus is going to be able to handle it either. Do I want to go back that way? I don't know that I do. But when I sit down to type, I want my characters to appear on the friggin' screen. And this is a problem. Because of the way our computers are architected, especially nowadays, this is a problem even on very lightweight systems. Even if you're on a machine that doesn't do complex offloading to the GPU or through OpenGL or some other rendering engine, any major compositing, you still have this problem. Even if you boot, and I've been trying this on a bunch of different machines, even if you boot on whether it's a Raspberry Pi or this big beefy machine I've got right in front of me into just a terminal. You boot modern Linux into just a terminal, the problem is still there. It goes away a little bit. The less overhead you have, the faster things go. The less opportunities for the data to be passed between points, the faster things are going to go. So yeah, just having a Linux terminal does make things a little faster. It really does help. It's still, though, your brain sees that delay and it almost makes me tense up a little bit. Like it makes me get a little uptight, and it drives me bonkers. And then I turn right around and I go back to this old machine or any of a variety of old machines that I get a chance to play with. And it gets so much better. So much better. The typing comes out so much faster. It literally, my body relaxes and writing goes from a thing I like doing, but the interface between me and the computer causes tension, to, oh my God, this is so enjoyable and relaxing. If you know the works of George R.R. Martin, this is one of the greatest examples of this. The Game of Thrones books, the Songs of Ice and Fire are written on an old DOS machine. I believe it's a 486, don't quote me on that, but it's an old DOS machine running WordStar, which is pictured right here. This is WordStar. And I don't know if this is the exact version of WordStar that George R.R. Martin uses, but this is what WordStar looks like. And he sits in WordStar to write his novels. Now he has another computer sitting off to the side that's a modern computer that he can do all his web browsing on and everything else on. But when he wants to write, when he wants to enjoy writing and not feel that lag everywhere and feel like he can just distraction-free write, he chooses this. And on those old machines, you get an old PS2 connected keyboard, DOS, single tasking, WordStar, very basic. I've tested this. Crazy fast. Crazy, crazy, crazy fast. And there's no, I mean, there is input lag, but you don't notice it. You don't notice it. Things appear on the screen instantly. And this may seem a weird thing to harp on, but it dramatically impacts my ability to enjoy computers. It truly does. And I don't know that there's any potential solution for it. There's no easy way to do it. If you look online, there are articles all over the place for how to reduce the input lag for keyboards and mouse on Windows or Linux or Mac or whatever. This is a common problem that many writers face, that many video gamers face. Many gamers face. I just started randomly choosing words there, apparently. But, but this is a problem that's common. And there are things we can do to kind of mitigate it a little bit. But it's never quite as good as it was. Never. And so for me, what I've come to the realization of is I need multiple machines. I need a machine that I can do all my writing on. Something where when I push the key, things appear immediately. That kind of rhymed. Cool. And then there's the machines I use for everything else. For video editing, for high-end gaming, etc. It's a difficult one, and I wish there was a way to solve it. I hope that there's some awesome set of engineers out there that is finding a way to make it so when I push the key on my keyboard, it's instantaneously appearing on my screen. Because my God, that would make my life so much better instead of making it suckier. And it literally, the more that time goes by, over the last week especially, as I've gone back and forth, because I've been working on this little portable old guy quite a lot in this project I'm working on. And the more I work on it, the more I realize this is funner to use. And a big part of that is how fast it is at doing whatever it is I'm currently doing, which is almost always just typing. And there's something brilliant about that. I had to get this off my chest. If any of you guys have suggestions, not for how to make it a little better, but how to fix it, how to make keyboard input as fast as it was on these old machines from the early to mid 1980s, I'm all ears. I don't want little improvements. Little improvements aren't going to cut it. I've looked online and there's little improvements all over the place. No, I need it fixed. And until I can get it fixed, I've got to just start having like a DOS or or otherwise laptop, or maybe just this little guy next to me all the time to do my writing on so that I don't slowly go insane. This rant was brought to you also in part by Pogo Linux. Check this one out. This is one of their newer machines. It's a 1U unit. It's the Atlas 1288R dual AMD EPYC 7000 processor. You can choose from a whole bunch of different EPYC processors that they've got there. Awesome. You can really deck it out. Up to 4 terabytes of RAM. Holy moly. Dedicated KVM. Integrated LAN on it. Quad port gigabit Ethernet. I don't have any of these things. 10 hot swappable drive bays. This is a beast. This is an absolute beast. And of course, you can configure it shipping from them with a wide variety of different Linux distributions because it's friggin' Pogo Linux and it's what they do. You can find out more over at pogolinux.com. And of course, Lulzbot. If you were lucky enough to be down at CES, the Computer Electronics Show, or the Consumer Computer Electronics. Man, I can't say word today. So the Consumer Electronics Show this last week, Lulzbot was doing something cool. They were down there on the show floor, and at their booth, they set up an assembly line. I wish I could have gone to see this just because that sounds like such a cool idea. Literally, they had a mini assembly line where they were building 3D printers like that one back there. In fact, the Lulzbot Mini is what they were building. It's that one right back there on the show floor. So they had 3D printers, 3D printing parts for their 3D printers. And then the parts that couldn't be 3D printed, they had in stock already. And they were assembling it there just as they do in their factory. And they built, I don't know how many, like 20 or something like that. And then they're giving a bunch away. And they're like the CES special edition made on the show floor Lulzbot Minis. That's just a cool idea. I've never been to a trade show and seen someone actually basically set up a complete assembly line as their booth, but that's a brilliant idea. Anyway, they also announced this last week a new tool head. And so if you do much 3D printing, you know that a lot of times you need separate tool heads for different types of material. Like if you have like a flexible, like a Ninja Flex or like any sort of flexible material versus say a PLA or something along those lines, you'll need different tool heads. Well, they released what they call the Aerostruder tool head, which can handle both, which is really cool. Anyway, they have a version for the Lulzbot Mini and their bigger Lulzbot Tad. You can find out more over at Lulzbot.com. And we have shirts. I keep adding more shirts to the mix. I don't have my shirt on. I'll wear my shirt tomorrow so you guys can see some of them. So I've got this shirt, and I've got a Linux Sucks shirt. The Linux Sucks shirt, that seems to be everyone's favorite. I do like how it came out. I've got one upstairs right now. I also put a shirt. If you go over to Lunduke.com, there's a little Lunduke store link up in the top left, and I put out a shirt that is the main file, or not the main file, the main.c file and the main function of the very first release of the Linux kernel. Linux kernel 0.2.02 or whatever it is. The very first release of the Linux kernel, so you can have it, wear it on your chest. It's only a couple of lines long for the main.c, for the main function. But I'm like, how cool would it be to put that on a shirt? So I put that on a shirt mostly for me, but you guys can go grab one over at Lunduke.com if you so wish. And a big thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, these lovely, lovely, lovely folks that I love so much because they're lovely. They really do make this show possible. And if you want to know the upcoming schedule, here it is. Monday, I do the Rant. Tuesday is Linux News. Wednesday, Tech News. Thursday, Linux Thursday, where you just get to ask us questions and we answer whatever you want. And speaking of that, little birdie tells me Matt Hartley is going to be back this week on Thursday. So he's been gone for 2 weeks. We believe hunting dinosaurs up and down the Oregon coast. At least that's the rumor. We don't know for sure. And Friday is the Lunduke Files. Friday is supposed to have been the Lunduke Files for the last 2 weeks. Every Friday I've gotten sick. It's just been awful. If you watch the news at all, there's like a Pacific Northwest flu-mageddon going on in my house because I've got 2 small kids. We're getting them all. In fact, I don't feel that great right now, but what are you going to do? It's all right. So hopefully this Friday will be the actual debut of the Lunduke Files. I actually think it would be funny if I didn't ever intend to do the Lunduke Files, but every week I was like, this Friday, first episode of the Lunduke Files, and then just never do it, and then come up with increasingly crazier excuses. Like, being sick's one thing, but then like, my car exploded, or I wanted to, but meteorite impact. What can you do, right? And just increasingly step it up. If I would have thought ahead, I would have come up with something, but I'm actually doing the Lunduke Files, so it probably will happen this Friday. I'm not going to say 100%, because when I say 100%, I get the flu. So what I'm going to say is 90%, and then it will almost certainly happen. That's my plan anyway. One final thing I should say. This show is now available as an audio podcast to the public. I originally had it as a Patreon perk. Those who support the show on Patreon get to get an audio RSS podcast feed of the show. And I've just been getting a lot of requests for it. So I asked the Patreon supporters, I'm like, hey guys, what do you guys think about making this public? Should we keep it as an exclusive thing just for the Patreon supporters or make it public? Almost unanimously, like 6 people were like, yeah, keep it exclusive. But everyone else was like in droves, like, yeah, of course, open it up, man. And so we did. It should be showing up in the major podcast aggregators soon. Google Play. I'm trying to get it over on iTunes, but I don't have a Mac or Windows machine, so I can't run iTunes, which makes it a little more challenging, but I'm working on that. I'm trying to work with Apple to get it up there without them, I don't know, making it too hard for me. But if you go over to Lunduke.com and you click on any of the given episodes, especially the ones over the last couple of weeks, near the bottom you'll see an RSS link. You can also just download the MP3 file if you like, because I love you. Feel free to spread it around. Spread that link around. That's the good one. If you find an RSS feed elsewhere, like that lists like a player.fm site or whatnot, that's not me. I don't track those at all. I don't know anything about those. Grab the official one from Lunduke.com. Any other ones, you're going to be getting things delayed and whatnot. So go grab it from Lunduke.com. All right, That's it. That's it for now. We've got some pretty cool guests actually coming on this week. The news this week is going to be, hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, with guests. So we're going to have some other people providing input. God, I hope I can speak better the rest of the week. Otherwise, these shows are going to be terrible. We're going to have more guests. It's going to be great. Everyone, have a fantastic week. Go complain about keyboard lag, because that's what I plan to do the rest of the day.